what you want is you want hooks. You want a bunch of different hooks, and you wanna know what your cover's gonna look like. So that was something I tried to do with Jade Shadows a lot. Was like I embedded a lot of hooks, and what I found was it's really paying off with. And I'm at the moment I was talking to you before about how I'm in the middle of designing ads. I don't have too many weird things I can design ads around. Like not too many. It's great, but like there are a lot of different ways I can come at selling people on this story. I can sell them on revenge story. I can sell them on man chooses to go to prison to get system. I can choose them on everyone in this world fucking loves swords and he uses a stick. It's not that much more work to do this at the start of your story, to look at your story objectively from the outside and go, how can I make this more hooky?
This is the LitRPG podcast, your one-stop shop for everything LitRPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the LitRPG podcast, the only podcast raising the roof so that his guests can also have space. With us today is Andy K, certified tall person and also author. How are you doing?
Like how certified tall person comes before author in my qualifications, but yes, hello.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
we like to reduce people to their physical attributes on this podcast.
Yeah, healthy perspective.
Absolutely. From your end, maybe.
Well, no, it's from up here, but yeah.
Yeah. Like end of the
Yeah.
There's so many like tall person Australian jokes one could make, but they're kind of like it's difficult because it's up and down. Like I've already gotten a lot of shit from like Heath and Travis for it, so I won't indulge.
Feel free. I can take it. If I can hear you from up here, I'll
yeah. It's just a shame that you probably like. Are you playing basketball with the kangaroos? That's like the rudest thing I can think of. But no.
We do basketball we have a national basketball league. I don't think it's particularly. I mean, they're pretty good internationally, I think, but they're not. No basketball for me. You can see the tennis rackets.
Oh yeah. For a second, I thought it was pickleball, but obviously not.
Mate, don't get me started.
I just imagine like a bunch of like really really tall Australians like going up to a kangaroo, opening the pouch and like putting a ball in. That could be kind of
there are like you had Hannibal on like whatever a month and a half ago. He's taller than I am, and that's saying something.
Yeah. He described himself as Jason Momoa from Wish.com.
I mean,
and after the podcast, he actually showed his face, and I was like, "Why did you use the avatar? Like, he actually looked like Jason Momoa, and not even from Wish.com. Like, I would legit like buy him on Amazon, that like for the full price.
I don't think you're allowed to do that, but sure.
I thought that was like normal in Australia. You just
buying people on Amazon.
Indentured servitude.
We earned out our crimes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I have one last one. Like I saw this image yesterday, and I thought it was like kangaroos are just deer that went to prison.
We have deer too, though, Max. So that's
I had no idea. Anyway, why don't you sell me on your book before I turn even more people off of this podcast?
Yeah. Cool. Well, my book will be going live in 5 hours.
By the time this podcast is out, it's going to be.
By the time the podcast is out, the book will be live. It's called The Jade Shadows Must Die. My elevator pitch is Cradle meets Kill Bill. Throw a little Path of Ascension in there. Those are kind of my comps. So it's a revenge story, but the revenge is front and center. The pitch is basically that there is my main character. It's a natural world story, so it's not an isekai or a system apocalypse. It's just a world with a system or a universe with a system. My protagonist has he lost his parents and his younger sister when he was young to a group of thieves, and he has a list of these thieves, and the series is scaffolded to that list. So he will be going down the list, hunting down all of the people who wronged him. And so that kind of revenge framework is the scaffolding for the whole story. And the first book kind of has a slightly unique entry point, I guess, where it's so the story is kind of Janja inspired, but there's a system, and he does not have system access. He's not talented enough. So the only way he can get system access and kind of begin his revenge journey is by getting himself incarcerated in a prison where they give everybody system access because it will allow them to profit off the prisoners who have system access. So that's kind of the pitch, like revenge story, starts in a prison, martial arts focus, like real strong. I've intentionally designed my system in a way where ranged combat doesn't really work very well until later on. I want people to be hitting each other with weapons. That's kind of that's the framework for the whole story. So it's built from the ground up for me to be able to write kind of detailed, really kinetic martial arts fights, like semi-regularly throughout the story. It's not like it's not a pure kind of like dungeon crawler, like action after action after action scene after action scene, but there's quite a lot of action, and when there is action, it's pretty detailed. Because that's the kind of thing. Like I love martial arts movies. Like I said, Kill Bill was a touchstone for me for this. Yeah.
I think the way I would describe it is cultivation, escape from Butcher Bay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And it sort of has a, I guess in terms of system stuff, the other kind of, it's not unique. There's other books that have done it, but like it has a system and it has cultivation, and they're sort of progressed distinctly, at least at first. Yeah.
In a manner of speaking.
Yes, in a manner of speaking.
Yes. No, like, I mean, I've read it. We've been talking for like over a year now. I think you approached me on Reddit.
Yeah, you were the very first person in the LitRPG community that I randomly messaged.
Oh wow! Okay, thanks. And I think you want to like join the server and like our small community thing. And at first I kind of like turned you down, but then we got into chatting, and yeah, then I adopted you. I'm proud of you.
You adopted me. I've appreciated that to this day.
No, like it's been great. Like you've been nothing but really big asset. Because I mean, like you have written before, you have written books before, you have like a whole unique perspective, and not just because you're tall. It is. Hey, I'm just saying.
No, I like that.
Yeah. And yeah, like it's good to have you around. Really.
Good. Thank you. I enjoy being around.
Yes. And also people should read, like I've read your book, and I mean, I read a lot of starts, right? Because people send it me, I have a slush pile, I have to like go through that stuff. It's really good. Like it's really, really good. And my only hope is like, because I haven't seen it after the revisions, I really hope you didn't over-revise it.
The beginning pretty much stayed the same. We can get into the revisions in a bit, but the first, what you read is not very different to the section you read is not very different to the version that you read. I had to change one key thing, and that was it. Yeah.
I'm super looking forward to to reading the full thing. And so should you, by the way. If you are listening to this and you haven't checked it out, you should totally check it out. It's on Royal Road right now. Like, well, not right now, but when you're listening to it, yes, time zone. So we're talking about it.
I'm in Australia. I'm from the future anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So he already has released it. Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. Struth?
No one says that.
I know. I know. Anyway, not in that way anyway. I'm completely butchering like not just one language, but also like a regional dialect.
Struth.
Yeah, it's kind of like German saying Zappalot. No one says it anymore. But yeah, I get it.
Not common vernacular at this point.
But why don't you tell me more about the best advice you've ever gotten as a writer?
Best advice I ever got as a writer. I have a couple of thoughts on this. I have one that was craft focused and one that was one that was more business isn't quite the right word, but like bigger than craft. I'll come up with a better way to describe. I'll do the craft one first. The best kind of piece of craft advice I got, and I think at least the quote I'm thinking of, this is not strange advice, but I think the particular person I'm thinking of who gave this was actually Matt Dinnerman on a Facebook post somewhere. But he was commenting on how you should focus on character. And I do agree that that's something that perhaps gets a bit overlooked. And we talked a little bit earlier in the bonus material about like that dichotomy between Royal Road and Amazon, and this might kind of be slightly more relevant to publishing on Amazon than it is to publishing on Royal Road. But like, if you look at the LitRPG series that have done the best on Amazon, they all have incredibly strong character work. You know, like you've got Donut and Carl and everyone in Dungeon Crawler Carl. All of the side, like the cast of characters in Cradle kind of becomes incredible as you kind of get deeper into the series. Like, you know, Jason, for all of his divisiveness, is an incredibly strong piece of like character work. So, you know, I think a lot of people don't focus enough on character. And if you're trying to write something that is purely a self-insert story where that's the primary focus, like maybe this advice doesn't land, but it's something that doesn't maybe get talked about a huge amount with LitRPG, like for LitRPG, but I do think there's like a place for it, like I said, as illustrated by like all of the best, most successsill series. There's plenty of that do very well where they don't have a really strong character focus, but it works, like it can work.
Even if you're writing self-insert, the side characters are usually what people are staying around for. I mean, like, imagine you had Path of Ascension without, Liz and Aster.
Or like everyone loves Ogress in Defiance of the Fall. Like, there's all sorts of, like the side characters kind of make a lot of those self-insert characters. You're absolutely right. So I think there's that, and like learning to write good characters is hard. So that's also part of why I think like it's probably more difficult than learning to pace well or to write a good plot or whatever, because character work kind of becomes quite nuanced, and I certainly don't think I'm particularly good at it, but it's the kind of thing that I aspire to be good at. So there's that. Sorry, you go.
I mean, I can, as always, recommend like The Art of Character by Dib Cobbett, but also I can recommend The Secrets of Character by, I think it's like Matt Bird who wrote that. Like, highly recommend those two books.
There's lots of like there's a series of books. She has a podcast as well by someone called KM Weiland. She has a lot of work on archetypes, and they're quite I think they're quite helpful because they're a fairly approachable way into learning about character, because you can kind of, when you think in terms of archetypes, you can immediately liken them to a character from a film or a TV show or whatever like that you've seen in the past, and you can kind of like understand what she's saying about why this archetype works with these beats. So I think those are quite good. And she does a lot of like she has this whole thing about, I can't remember the exact terminology, but like I think it's quite good for LitRPG because it's sort of this she has all these arcs, these archetypes, these archetypal characters, but they're at different stages of life. So there's like like when you're a child, and then when there's like an arc called like the prince or something, and then there's the king, and then there's the old master. And basically these are all beats for story arcs for characters at different stages of their life, but this can be mapped really well to LitRPG characters as they get stronger. And like they go from being the weak to OP thing. There's like arcs that you can map from her work to different phases of a series like Cradle or something. Like and so I think that's a really useful resource to look at if you want to kind of start thinking about character in that way, because it does map really nicely. I can't remember the names of the archetypes. There's king and there's one for men and one for women, I think, as well. Or I could be wrong. There's a queen and a king for sure.
My problem with archetypes is usually that whenever I try to employ them, I tend to stick too closely to them, if that makes sense. So my characters become like one-dimensional. So I always try to stray away from archetypes. And what really brought me like really closer to like good characters is kind of understanding exactly what they want and why they want it, and then going from there. And knowing what they want and why they want it, like through the lens of certain archetypes, if you want, that creates a character for me. So, for example, a Lancer reacts differently to a need than someone who's like more calm and collected. But I have to understand why this guy or gal or whoever is so gung-ho about this thing. Like, what happened in their childhood that made them in a certain way. Yeah.
I think this is kind of touches on that broader notion of there's people who like will write these really elaborate backstories for their characters, and then there are people who don't. I kind of err on the don't really. I quoted China Mavel before in the notes, and I'm not 100% sure he said what I said he said. I'm going to do that again, but not with him. I'm pretty sure it's Aaron Sorkin that basically like he doesn't know anything about the characters until he needs to know it. At the moment that he needs to know something about them, he will then come up with that, but he doesn't pre-prepare anything about his characters. And again, this is film, so it's a little bit different, but like, or TV. But that's kind of my, like, I'll come up with some brushstrokes for the character, but I don't want to like know what they did on their 10th birthday. Like I don't need to know. It's like, yeah, that's my kind of, I guess I pants my characters. I guess that's the
Yeah, it's. I think that's very much the way to do it. Like, I also like get overly constrained if I like write down like this character did this and this and this, because then I write down a story that's plausible but not one that's enjoyable. So I also like to like have like a basic idea of who this character is first, and kind of like try them out a little bit, and then just go like, hey, what could be fun? And then after I found out what's fun, I ask like, hey, why? So I can keep the character congruent, because if I don't, then the character changes with the story beats, and like I have the problem of a plotter even though I'm pantsing, which is really weird.
Yeah, okay. I kind of think I'm not, this is not something I've thought about. I'm thinking about this as we talk, but like with characters, I kind of think, at least with the Jade Shadows, I kind of just, like I said, brushstrokes at the start. And when I'm thinking about what those brushstrokes were, it was mainly the language. I don't know, you can use different language depending on which like formal, breakdown
framework.
Of writing, framework you use. But the wound is kind of like the thing at the center of it, which gets back to what you said about what they want. But it's like, I'm thinking about my side characters. I'm like, why, what did I actually know about them when I started writing them? And it was mostly the most traumatic or defining thing. It doesn't have to be trauma. You don't have to be getting into that, but like the thing that defines their current reality, like what was the thing that happened to them? And then from there you can kind of build out, and you can riff as long as you've got that central motivation. So it's like one of my side characters is from a sect, and there's not many sects in my story. Like my story is a cultivation story where the sects are like the sects are the shitty way to cultivate. They're not the main source of cultivation. And she's from a sect, and so I gave her, I won't go into detail on what it is, but I knew what it was that had happened to her that had made her who she is today. And then once I knew that, and she was in a sect, I could just kind of riff on what her sect was like, and like that builds out her character as it, like, at some point I decided that they had great orchards, and now one of the things is, one of her like quirks is that she loves fruit and is obsessed with like food, and just takes joy in food. And that was like a thing that was an organic thing that at some point they were having a conversation, and I'm like, I need to give this a bit of personality. Like I need to define her a little bit better. This conversation will do that. Like what do I already know? Okay, she was in a sect. Like they were somewhere remote. They probably had orchards. Like it just kind of, you just riff, Yeah.
It makes complete sense. I'm kind of like remembering. So for me, it's like a basically a series of like predetermined axioms, and then trying to like find a character who would be in this position at this time, given the constraints that we have. For example, like if you have a character who grows up in a like post-apocalyptic fantasy world, right? And they are in a certain position to like steal some sort of artifact. Like what happened, given that the world is, post-apocalyptic, to this child to be in this position to steal this artifact? That's not just, like dumb luck. but like, hey, what do they want? Why are they there? And that actually is very powerful in storytelling, I feel.
Yeah, I mean the want. We could talk about the want as well, and this is still we're still on character, I guess. But the want is like a really interesting thing because like conventional like story frameworks or whatever will tell you that your character has to have a want. Like, and when I was like studying, I did studied screenwriting for a little while, and like I really liked this distillation of what a story was, which is somebody wants something badly and is having trouble getting it. Was like the distillation of a story, but I do kind of think like LitRPG you can get away with a little bit. There are very successful stories where the want is not super well defined, or it's a reactionary want where like System Apocalypse is probably the most successful current genre, and the want in a System Apocalypse situation is almost always survival. It's just like the situation has been thrust upon me, and my want is that I don't die. Like, I
want life.
I want life. Like I choose life. That's a perfectly reasonable way to frame your character's want. I wanted a character that had a want that was more nuanced or rooted in something that, proactive. They're choosing to do this thing. And I kind of felt like I couldn't do that with a Sysopoc or an Isekai. Like it's hard. Like you can get it with Isekais, but like, because they're not in their own world, all of their previous attachments are gone when you isekai them. And so it's very hard to have them have a deeply rooted want that stems from something that happened to them not that, like a while ago. There's plenty of, again, these incredibly successful isekais and incredibly successful Sysopocs. Like it's not, this is not.
Oh my God. I was thinking about like what you said, right? Like hard to have people like connected. Do you remember Sam's story? Where it was like the supervillain's kid.
I don't think I read that.
Because that was really good. And I really wish that Sam would write that friggin' story. But yeah.
We all wish, well, he's occupied now.
He's very occupied.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, like totally with the want and the need, completely get it. Like, or I should rather say I should completely agree. It's hard sometimes to, again, like the biggest struggle I had in Torchbearer was like, hey, she wants to go back. Yeah, sure, but why? I didn't really consider that because I was so focused on like the survival. I handled it like a Sysopoc story, basically. When I should have like really had like a really deep motivation about, okay, cool. Why do you want to go back? And that's, hey, yeah, cool, you got friends that are still left over. Okay, yeah, we established that. But if that is true, and that's a thing, I think something that I did wrong in the first version of Torchbearer. If you have friends and you have this country that you are supposed to be defending, then you need to be acting differently, because you're acting like a complete mess right now, which is fine. I really enjoyed writing that, but it doesn't mesh with their backstory. So
yeah, it's. I think simple wants are good in this environment. You can add nuance to their situation in other ways, but like at least I don't know. I wanted a real simple one. I wanted man wants to kill 8 people. Like that's you can add nuance to that later on and like shape it in different ways, but like having something that's easy to understand where the readers can be like, I know what this person wants. Like it's really clear to me what they want and why they want it immediately. It's like that to me is useful. Like I think it makes things clear to the reader early what they're getting, and so they can choose to buy in or not buy in. Like it's like, okay, this is what this story is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, could do worse. Could do like a band story where they haven't done the band in like 70,000 words.
This is literally going to be the topic, the answer to a later question, because this is my whole rewrite is an X story where they haven't done the X for this many words. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like you can kind of salvage that by reframing the context of the story, which is what I'm going to do. But
I tried to do that, but it was better to just fix it and make it better the way that it should have been. But the other kind of writing advice which I got, which I think is really useful, and this is more for, I mean, this is for everybody, but it's for people who are doing this with a view to hopefully having a story that is successful, like that is commercially successful or something of that nature. What, you can have your own metric for success, but like this was like something that I learned from there's a forum called Kindle Boards or K Boards which was like one of the communities when Amazon first released, like enable people to self-publish, which is where I was when I was doing my romance publishing, 12 years ago. And like I said, Will White was there, like Hugh Howey was there, who publishes Wool, which got turned into the TV show Silo. Like a bunch of people hung out there. It was a really good source of info. I don't remember who gave me the advice, but like thinking about the marketability of your story, and this is not about it being on market, but thinking about things like the way the advice was framed is write your blurb before you write your story, because what you want is you want hooks. You want a bunch of different hooks, and you want to know what your cover's going to look like. You don't have to like pay for the art, but you want to know what your cover's going to look like. You want to know what that your blurb is hooky. If your blurb is just, and again, there's always exceptions. So like I'm not, there are stories that are just like Baker McLeod's Roomblade is a really good example. He's just like, I just wanted to write a real traditional like lit RPG numbers go up story, but like there are a lot of those, and if you're not a really good writer like he is, it'll be really hard to make it stand out if you're not hooking. Like, so that was something I tried to do with Jade Shadows a lot. Was like I embedded a lot of hooks, and what I found was it's really paying off with. And I'm at the moment I was talking to you before about how I'm in the middle of designing ads, and I have too many weird things I can design ads around. Like not too many, it's great, but like there are a lot of different ways I can come at selling people on this story. I can sell them on revenge story. I can sell them on man chooses to go to prison to get system. I can choose them on everyone in this world fucking loves swords and he uses a stick. Like I can sell them on all sorts of like things. I can sell them on the power progression where like everyone has the system and he has key. Like I just kind of think like a lot of people, it's not that much more work to do this at the start of your story, to look at your story objectively from the outside and go, how can I make this more hooky? And that even extends to something like the title. It's like, I like those, like, I really like titles like Reborn as a Demonic Tree, like the Japanese light novel style titles that sell your story in the title. And again, I tried to do that with Jade Shadows, and we'll see. Well, this isn't published yet, so we don't know if any of this will succeed. But like, I feel like the title, "The Jade Shadows Must Die," conveys two things which I really want, which is genre inspired and revenge story. Like that's what I'm hoping that people take away from that title. Yeah. I just think that people would benefit from this.
Yeah. No, like that is definitely what people take away. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Should write a spin-off. The Jade Beauties Must Date.
God, trying to work out what to do with romance. I mean, I don't have to deal with romance at the moment because they're in a prison and there's no way to like write that well. There's no way to write the power imbalance of a romance where people are in prison.
Different kind of soap opera.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the romance is an interesting one. Like I mean, I feel like I feel like it's probably okay to talk about this on here because it is an interesting. This is one of those areas where I think I'm making a bit of a sacrifice in my like Venn diagram overlap, where it's like I would probably want to put a bit more romance in there, a bit of romance in there in some capacity. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to yet. I'm not going to for now, but the market doesn't like a lot of romance. So, and not that I want to turn it into a romance at all. I really like Unintended Cultivator has some romance worked into it in a way that's like, I haven't read that much of it, but like he sleeps with someone, like where he has like one kind of casual encounter, and then a little bit later on he meets a woman and they kind of get into a proper relationship or travel together for a bit. And I kind of want to put something like that in there. Like I don't want romance to be a central focus, but I also don't want to pretend that element of humanity doesn't exist altogether. But I do feel like that's something where I'm weighing the market's potential reaction to it. And again, that might come across as crass to people who are listening if they're just pure readers. But like, I feel like, it's an interesting topic of discussion. Like,
it's tough because there's also like some romance angle that I want to like. I had planned something for Torchbearer, but there's just no space in the story. It's just not that. But for Band, like one of the like, yeah, I can't spoil, but like, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to like add some like scenes in the first couple of chapters to like add a bit more romance, because if you want to add romance, you want to do it early. However, I think so I've just been thinking about Path of Ascension, right? Because I've been reading it for reasons that will soon become obvious. And I think that one thing he does really well is that, like, from the very start, there's always these power couples. Like, there's a power couple that give Matt his first like start in life, and then I think even in the playpen, there's like a bunch of couples, and like, you know,
and then you meet
like
Liz's parents at some point, or like, you know,
and like at some point later they just get fucking married, right? And I think like he does this really well because he doesn't really focus on the I talked with Chris about this like a while ago, 2 weeks ago or so, when he said like people are actually upset because it's not a real romance, because there's no fighting. It's like, why? You just have a nice relationship. Just have a nice relationship. Period. Like it happens. It works.
You're never going to satisfy everyone. I don't necessarily know that you do need to put the romance in the first, like, early though. Like, you know, there's romance in He Who Fights with Monsters, but it doesn't happen until like book 2, whatever it is. But it's pretty light on in 2, and then again it happens when he's, you know, later on in like 4 or 5. Like it happens a few times, but I like that's the kind of implementation that I would like to put in, where it's like, I think a lot of the readership's problem with it is that they don't like the problems that romance creates for the main character in their progression. If you can find a way to do it where that isn't an issue, I think that's what I hope. I haven't decided yet if there'll be romance. Like I said, for now he's in prison and I'm not putting it in. I have like, but the concern I have is that I have the only person that he befriends in the prison, really. He befriends a bunch of people, but like the person who is his ally, the only other like main character or side character is a woman. And I'm like, I'm trying to project that they're not going to get together because I don't want to get them together. But it's interesting. This is a really like, I think this stuff's fascinating, like the push-pull of this stuff from a writer perspective.
Have you read Quest Academy?
I've read book 1. Yeah, again, that's a great. I know how that was received and how people were like, oh, is this like, I get it. Like I said, Unintended Cultivator did it what I thought was reasonably well, where like he met another. I think it was maybe the end of book 1 or somewhere in the start of book 2 where he met. He's like a wandering. He's become a wandering cultivator, and he meets another cultivator from a sect on the road, and they like have a fling, and then they go on their own ways, and then later on he meets a woman, and they actually like have a bit of a relationship. I think that's about where I'm up to, but like it's doable. I just think you have to like choose the problems that relationship creates, because if like they're just there to get kidnapped by villains or like provide a point of leverage for bad guys, like it's not it's probably not what you want.
Like even the most, here's my belief, even the most staunch how should I put this, believer in traditional values would probably enjoy a book or a story more if the female co-protagonist has more agency than just being a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Right. And by traditional values, I mean like traditional book values, like, you know, like ye olde times. And yeah, like I said, the biggest issue is that you don't want to write a story that is just a bunch of interpersonal drama.
Yeah.
Right. Because like LitRPG is escapism, and people have enough interpersonal drama in their real life. They don't need that in books. Unless, of course, they enjoy the kind of like thrill of like, will they, won't they, like the resolution. But that's romance. You wrote that before, and it's different.
Yeah,
romance novels, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where I'm going to land on this in the end, but it is something I'm thinking about as I'm about to start like more fully plotting book 2. Like
I mean, both Beware of Chicken and Heretical Fishing doing it really well.
Yeah, there's plenty of romance. Even I fell off Defiance of the Fall at some point. Yeah, maybe like book 5 or 6 or something. But that has relationships.
But then obviously you weren't reading it right. You have to defy the fall so you can't fall off.
I'm just gonna have a drink. I'm drinking I should call out my friend Alistair bought me this delicious Japanese craft beer, which is my favorite beer, as like a gift for the day that I'm launching my book. So I'm drinking that now.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's look at the beautiful art, the little owl.
A little owl in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Mitachi no nest. Nice.
Yeah, I'm just steering you away from that pun. Just yeah.
Oh no, I can see where you're going. But yeah, you fell off of.
I fell off of Defiance of the Fall, like at some point. But there are multiple. You know, there was a romance in the early days with the woman who got turned into his weapon eventually. But there's a subsequent romance later on. He tried to save this woman he did try very hard to save this woman.
Oh my god, so many Shaft puns.
Oh no, she got turned into like a coffin.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought she got shafted.
No. He has an axe and a coffin. Yeah.
like in some parallel universe, I can hear Frank perking up.
Good old Frank.
Frank is the best.
Frank is the best. Big Frank fan.
One of my best achievements in life is still that I kind of feel bad about it because I feel as though I extorted Travis Baldry for 5 Frank points.
I remember that from the
yeah. He looked so bitter. I really regretted saying that because now I know that he really doesn't like performing on request, especially if it's on his own stuff. So I apologize for that.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't know. No.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I can enshrine my Frank points now. I think I'm like one of the few people in life that actually have like real life Frank points.
Put them on the wall behind you.
I don't want them to get stolen. They're quite valuable.
Right. Yeah. Fair.
Depending on the house star ratio right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was your first question.
That's my first question.
Well, your second question, to be honest, but to be correct.
Can a team of has-been teen idols save the world? Find out in the new series Boy Bands and Dragons. When Neverboyland is sucked into a magical world, their reunion takes a backseat to staying alive. But if they can get over the past drama that drove them apart, they may find that even pop stars can be heroes. Come and discover your new favorite read, Our Comeback Tour is Slaying Monsters, the first in the Boy Bands and Dragons series by Kim Smuga Otto, dropping on Kindle Unlimited, October 25th.
What about a thing that you're doing now because of something you learned from the past or something you would differently in the future?
Yeah, so this is that rewrite stuff that I alluded to before. So I'm a pretty big plotter. I want to plot. I think most things are better when they're plotted. I think I prefer to plot and know where I'm kind of going. And so I plotted this whole book in a reasonable amount of detail. And it looked. And the problem for me is that I've never written anything as long as what I've been writing now. Like my romance, if you add up the trilogy that I had, the main trilogy that I had when I wrote romance, added up is less words than what I've written now. So like that whole 3 books was less words than this. I've never written anything this long, and I've never plotted anything in quite this much detail. And so I plotted this, and I sat down to write it, and I got 150,000 words in, and I was not even halfway through what I had plotted for one full book. And so I was in a bit of a crossroads. Yeah, I was like, because the book is, like I said before, I'm kind of trying to pin it to this list of people that my character wants to kill. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to do a book, but I didn't. My intention was that the first book would end with him killing the first person on the list, because I feel like that's a good promise to make.
I have one dumb question. This just occurred to me, and probably readers are going to hate me for this because I interrupted you in a very, very good moment.
That's fine.
But why are you calling it a list and not a Kill Bill?
That is a good idea. The Kill Bill. Might be a bit on the nose, Max. Might be a bit on the nose. Yeah, so I got to this point where I was like 150,000 words in, and I was halfway through my list of beats, effectively. And so I had a choice to make, which was like, well, I had to work out how to handle this. And so my decision, which I made, I don't know, 3 months ago or something, 4 months ago, was I was going to split it in half and write 2 books, and it was going to be, a 200,000 word-ish first book, And to give some context for the story, the prison that my character Rix goes to is effectively divided in half by like strength, because they don't want to put the really strong people with the weaker people. And so the way I had eventually, the decision I came to on how to split this was, the first book is in the first half of the prison, the second book is in the second half of the prison. And at the end of the second book, he would kill the first person on his list, because that was where my kind of beats ended for the first book, which became 2 books. So I'm like, okay, cool, I guess I'll do this. And I wrote the whole first book, the rest of the first book, as a single book. And then I was like, okay, this isn't particularly satisfying anymore as a book. I'm going to need to make this book 1 feel a bit more distinct and solid as a book, a unit of fiction or whatever. So I kind of had to mess with the antagonist a little bit and make a situation where there was still someone to build up towards fighting at the end and have a nice climax and all that kind of stuff. Because the way my beats work is I was using like a Save the Cat style beat sheet. And so if I left it as is, book 1 would have ended at what was effectively the midpoint, which doesn't feel very good. So anyway, I did that, and then I wrote it, and I got to the end, and like literally 2 weeks ago or something, or 10 days ago, I was like preparing for my launch, and I was talking to some writers, and one of them, a mutual friend of ours, Draith, he was like, "Oh, let me read the first, whatever. Let me read some of it, and if I like it, I'll shout it out." And I'm like, "Cool, that's very generous, thank you." Like he I didn't ask him, he just messaged me. And he read it, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I just wish that it just feels bad that he's going to spend so long in prison." And when he said that, I was just like, I realized how much I had been worrying about about the fact that he was going to spend 400,000 words in prison. And that was really the one thing about the story that was really bothering me. And so this was about, like I said, not quite 2 weeks ago, something like that. And so I had been rewriting for 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day for the last 2 weeks, pivoting book 1 to end where it should have ended, which is him killing the first person on his list. And so I guess the lesson that I have learned is that my plotting will turn into more words than I think it will turn into. And when I plot book 2, I'm going to plot significantly less beats because,
Yeah.
So I think that's probably my big takeaway.
It's a very good takeaway to kind of like show that I can relate. I've recently actually, gotten back to writing because I remembered, I'm doing this to relax. Oh, cool, great. Because like there's still like the voice in my head that says like, you need to like publish more shit, like because people are waiting. But I have so much shit to do. But so I've been writing a bit more, just, a couple of 100 words a day. Yeah, it's fun. And I came to the point in my notes where it says like fight scene here. And then I noticed, oh shit, I haven't plotted this fight scene, have I? And like this, then I had to like, plot the entire fight scene and like kind of like put everything together. And basically now I have like 2 extra chapters that I need to put in there. And then I forgot like, oh yeah, she has this ability too. Oh no, fuck, what am I doing with that? And so yeah,
it's tough. Yeah. Like, so I'm hoping that this won't happen to me again in book 2. My thinking is he probably won't kill the next person on the list at the end of book 2. In an ideal world, it would be a person a book, but the way I've built my world out doesn't feel like it'll make sense power scaling wise for him to be able to kill the next person. So it might be 2 books before he kills the next person, but I just need to be careful of like of that. And then I think the other thing that I've been struggling with is, and this is like this feeds into that notion of Amazon versus Royal Road Publishing. It's like, and what you're sort of primarily focusing on. Like, it's probably been clear in just my language that like I'm like, this is a book that's for Amazon, that it's written to satisfy a serial audience as much as I can, but I'm hoping that it will do well on Amazon as its like kind of primary mode of existing. But what that's meant is that editing this book, like, because I've written the whole first book in advance, and now I'm going back through and editing. And one of the things that I am terrible at, that I did not anticipate how hard it would be, is once you start editing and moving scenes around, the chapter lengths go to shit, and nothing is going to work for like serial publishing anymore. Where it's like you're like, oh, when I wrote the whole thing, everything was within my kind of designated band of words, which is like 2,000 to 3,000 words a chapter. And then I'm moving scenes around, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there with all these chapters for like 1,400 words, and then chapters for like 4,000 words. And I'm like, and this needs to be here. How the fuck am I gonna, And like, this is just something I'm gonna have to get better at because I'm not very good at it. Like,
I just literally like, in my Scrivener, I have the chapters as like folders, and then underneath I have all the scenes.
Yeah.
And then I just move the scenes, and then like I need to go through it again and like make sure that like everything fits. But that works, and then you just need to move the folders, right? So you end in the middle of a scene instead of like somewhere else. Like, and it's not the end of the world if like one chapter is like 4,000 words and the other one is like 2,000, but 1, 4, and 4 is a bit of a problem.
I don't want to drop below the minimum I'm going to promise, which I think is 2,000 words. I don't really want to publish any chapter that's less than 2,000 words. I don't mind. There are some chapters that are 4,000 words, particularly in my first 7 or 8, because I'm going to drop them all at once, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to hit that 20,000 word threshold. So the actual chapter divisions there are kind of irrelevant to like impacting a daily posting schedule. But it's hard. Like that's a legitimately difficult thing. It's like, that's not something an Amazon or like a book writer has to think about. They don't like, yeah, you want your chapters to have some vague like semblance of consistency, but yeah, it's just like,
I've been listening to Will White's new series, The Last Horizon, which I really enjoy.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Yeah,
cool. It's OPMC done Will White style.
Yeah, cool.
It's
Will White style's great.
Yeah, like as always, very intricately crafted, very well done. No, it doesn't feel as breathless as the first book of Cradle, where where like it feels as though the book should have been 3 books. But he really nailed it. Like he really nailed it. It's really really good. And like his chapters, some are like 3 minutes 15, and some are like 19 minutes 19, right? So I think in trad publishing, yeah, you're right. Like, or in Amazon publishing, it's completely okay. For the rest, maybe not so much. So
I just don't want anybody to be disappointed with the chapters they're getting. Like the goal is like, even though I've written this like as a distinct unit as a book, I want the serial audience to get what they want out of it, which is hopefully like a satisfying experience that, there's that, like I'm trying to cliff well in a way that's like, I've talked on I think it was on Eternal Hiatus with a bunch of people about like excitement cliffs versus like danger cliffs or whatever. It's like there's a difference between like the reader desperately wanting to turn the page to learn what power someone gets versus the reader wanting to turn the page because there's an axe poised over the MC's head. Like, there are good cliffs and bad cliffs, and they both get people to turn the page, but people feel good about good cliffs. Like, so I'm trying to like write something that will satisfy a serial audience because I haven't done that before, and it's a really interesting challenge. I'm just saying this is the area of it that is most difficult for me is like chapter length. Now that I'm trying to do an edit pass, I nailed it. I like got within my chapter bands to begin with, and now it's all over the shop, and I'm scrambling, like
sweating. Yeah, it's the good news is that you can release now and just like worry about it later.
Yeah. It's mostly fine at this point. There's a few things I need to do to book 1, but I'll do them in the next few days. They're all later in the release schedule. Yeah.
I got a bit of like the same problem ish, where I don't want to wait for too long until I start publishing again with Torchbearer. But the issue is, do I have enough time to actually, like write more? Because I noticed that if I have like, hey, I need to like put out a chapter each week, I have more of an initiative to drive. It really helps, because otherwise, like it gets kind of like slogged away. But do I have enough time in the next 10 weeks to actually do this? Is my question. Because I don't know about you, but I can write when I only have one other thing that I need to be doing. So, like, my main work. But
I've been very fortunate. Sorry, I cut you off.
But if it's 3, go ahead.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate the last 2 months that my because obviously I haven't published, so I have a day job, but I'm a contractor, and I have been very fortunate that the last 2 months has been very quiet for my industry. So I was basically able to say, I mean, I think my boss was maybe even relieved that I was okay with there not being any work, because I'm like, look, I'd like to just take 2 months. I'm like on the tail end of this series. I just want to like nail it down and get it ready to release and finally do this, because I've been lingering I've been lurking in LitRPG communities for a year and a half. I've been at Dragon Con unpublished. I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to drill down and just like work. And it's been so much better only having one thing to focus on.
Oh, totally. Brings us to number 4. Also talking about like, Will White and stuff. What's one book that you love, and tell me why is it awesome?
Okay. I'm gonna bust out what we referred to, which was the China Evil. Obviously, it's back to front, but I'm gonna bust out this Perdido Street Station. This is one of my favorite books. This is a for people who don't know, he writes.
That's a very well-worn paperback.
It's been read many times. It's
you need to, one second. You need to be careful with your mic, because like it is.
I banged it.
If you touching your desk.
Yeah,
I'm getting just like gong.
Okay. No, that was me. That was me striking the. I've got a mic arm, like one of those telescopic arms. I accidentally bumped it. I'll be careful.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so there's a very, very well.
Let me hold this up again. Yeah,
paperback. Yeah, nice.
So this is one of my favorite books. He writes what the genre is kind of referred to. It's fantasy, but he's kind of grouped under this umbrella which people refer to as new weird. And it's kind of like, I love fantasy. It's my fantasy and sci-fi, my go-to genres, but I'm not really big on like high fantasy. I'm less interested in goblins and elves and dragons and that sort of thing. A new weird sort of tickles my particular kind of like things that I enjoy, which is so like, the premise of this book is like, it's about a man, like a human who's a scientist, but he's dating like a bug woman, and the world is just like fundamentally very strange, and like everything is sort of there's like birdmen who are kind of like I don't know how to pronounce it, but the D&D, the archoics or the archoics, there's like a bird people in D&D. And it's just, he writes beautifully, and the story is really, it's pretty dark. Like it's not and it's not progression fantasy. It's just fantasy. But I just love the world building in this series. There's a few books set in this same city. It's called New Crobuzon, I think. It's got there's this scene in this book, which is the scene I always describe to people when I'm trying to sell them to it, where it's like there's a like an enemy, a villain, I'm not going to say anything because it'll spoil it, but there's like a thing that is the source of antagonism in the story. And at one point, the government of this city, they have access to a portal to hell. And they go to hell and they say, "Hey, Satan, can you help us with this thing?" And Satan's like, "Fuck that." And I'm like, that's the best possible way to make an enemy scary. Satan is like, "No."
Thanks, Satan. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I love it. That would be that's one of my favorites. I have another one here. This is very off. I don't know if a lot of listeners will enjoy this, but I adored it. It's called The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. It's not fantasy at all, really. She won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction for the book in the series that's before this. It's basically just a series of vignettes of characters that are loosely connected. So each chapter is, you might have, the first chapter in this is about a guy who, it's got like a light sci-fi spin. The first chapter is about a guy who started a kind of a social media empire, which allowed people to upload their memories to a collective consciousness. And that's sort of that concept, that technology lightly kind of scaffolds the story, but not in a significant way. But then the next chapter might be, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it might be his son. And then it might be the girl that the son went to school with the next chapter. And you just gradually build this picture of everybody who is around the things that are happening. And I love this book so much, but it's very much not a numbers go up fantasy story. But I adore it. Like every so often I will take I'm in a book club that doesn't read fantasy. So like once every, I don't know, I'll read 3 fantasy books and then I'll read something else.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your take on urban fantasy? a Dresden Files style.
Not my favorite because it again. I don't like the really common tropes, and like I said, goblins and dragons and stuff. But like urban fantasy typically leans into like vampires and werewolves and stuff, and they fall under the same umbrella for me. Whereby I'd rather you try and do something new than give me something that I've already like read 10 times.
Have you read Rivers of London?
No.
Oh my god! Do yourself a favor, get the audiobook.
Rivers of London.
Yeah, Rivers of London, read by Hopna Cole Brooksmith.
Ben Aronovich.
Ben Aronovich.
Yeah.
It is really, really good. The way I describe it is kind of like how do I like standard almost Nordic police procedural meets Harry Potter.
Okay.
It's really, really good. And so basically I don't want to spoil anything, but like the titular Rivers of London are all goddesses. Like every river of London has a god or a goddess, and so like Lady Thames is like very, very prominent in it. And he basically it starts when he is stationed out of a murder scene at a church and sees his first ghost and is like kind of cool with it. And then he gets kind of like taken in by this this old wizard master who's very, very posh, like super posh, and has held the like the magical kind of like department of the Londoner police since 1945.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy, but it is very, very funny at times. The main character has a tremendously sarcastic, like dry humor, and the Kobna reads this thing so well, like so well.
Yeah,
I can highly recommend it. It is one of the best books.
Have you
read
read
My Comfort Food?
Okay. It sounds a bit like not in story necessarily, but in terms of concept. Have you read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin?
I've heard of it.
It's like the premise is it's set in New York, and each of the boroughs of New York has like a personification, and they have to like come together to save the city from dark forces, whatever. I can't actually remember many of the details, but it was good. And it might be in your. It's like urban fantasy, it might be in your wheelhouse.
It's like I think people would call it magical realism because fantasy is for nerds. Literally, like you're looking at like Neil Gaiman. Why is Neil Gaiman magical realism, or like Salman Rushdie? Because it won a Pulitzer. That's why it's magical realism and not urban fantasy.
Well, when I found the Candy House, that book I was citing before, one of the way I found it, I think, was that I was looking for. I think I was Googling the term like literary science fiction. Like I was interested in like I'd read a book by Ian McEwan called. It was a Ian McEwan book that came out a couple of years ago. He's a very eminent whatever, like he's British author. But he wrote this book that was just like about a guy who gets a robot, and it was cool. Like it was really cool. And I'm like, okay, there are some authors who are in that literary space writing really kind of intricate prose and stuff, but they're doing it with a sci-fi like spin. And I wanted to read more of that. And yeah, they definitely exist. Like
there was this short story that I think won a Nebula. Actually, it's called a stretch of highway two lanes wide. I think that really got me. Like it was really, really good. It's about nothing really much happens in it, but it's just really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Machines
Shoutouts
Like Me is the name of the Ian McEwan book.
What's it called?
Machines Like Me. It was good.
Okay.
Shoutouts. Okay. I mean, this is difficult because there's like a lot of, I've met a lot of cool people that I want to call out, but I'm going to just give a few.
Keep it to under 10. Maybe under 5. Under 5.
I'm going to shout out our mutual friend Luca because his book just dropped.
Yeah.
It's called Edge of Apocalypse. The sequel just dropped.
Apocalypse 2.
But the first one is out already. I'm going to shout out Draith because he was so generous with giving me feedback, and like I didn't ask, he just messaged me. He's like, if you want me to read this thing and it's good, I like it, I'll shout you out.
Draith is amazing. Like his book is really, really good. I want to call it the Tuesday Initiative, but that's not the right name.
No. So he's got the Forerunner Initiative on Amazon, but he's just got a new story that I think it either got to 2 or 1 on Rising Stars a month ago or so, called Not Just a Mage Lord Isekai. Did pretty well. So I
want to read that. He's like really cool, and stayed with him at Dragon Con. Didn't give him COVID, thankfully. And he's just a really, really cool dude to hang out with, and super, super friendly.
Yeah, I spent a bit of time with him at Dragon Con, but I didn't necessarily feel like I'd earned the level of generosity I got when he just messaged me randomly, which was really, really nice. Like,
he is like, I will almost say this, like I've been to America several times, love it, and he's exemplar of this like brand of people that I've only ever found in the US that just help you, even though they don't know you all that well, because it's the right thing to do. Like, really, really cool dude.
Yep. I got a couple more. I'll shout out Bleeding Tears. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think he uses he pronouns. He is from one of the kind of people on Eternal Hiatus who I talked to a little bit on there, and he just nice guy. His book did really well on Royal Road like a couple months ago. Basically, at the same time Drade's story was popping. It's called Arcanist in Another World. Really cool. Like I've read some of it, like first 20 or whatever chapters. Really cool kind of magic. It's what it says on the tin. Archmage gets isekai to a new place. Place has system. Doesn't really understand the system at the beginning, but is very good at magic from where he was before. Very cool. And then another magic, like Magus style story. I was also going to shout out Extra 26, who, and I believe she is a woman. I talked to her a bit on Discord, and her story Magus Reborn is doing really well on Amazon at the moment. Like it was like inside the top 1,000 for over a month now. It's already collected. Nice. I think in a month it's collected like 700 reviews. But she was really, really friendly to talk to me. Awesome. I'm basically shouting out all the people, because I messaged a bunch of people for shout outs, and some people, like plenty of people said yes, but a bunch of people I got to talking to, and that was a really nice way to make new friends. So and I'll do one more. You said this will be 5. Yes. A guy named Dosei, Dosei.
Oh yeah.
He was really, really friendly. Like I had a great chat with him. He released Loop Shard on Royal Road recently, which did really well, and he also has, I believe it's Madman Apocalypse.
I was one to like read it as like Loops Hard, like every single time.
Loops Hard. Yeah, Madman Apocalypse.
Like this book loops hard, man. Yeah,
this book loops hard. Yeah, Madman Apocalypse on Amazon, which has a really dope cover. And I haven't read it, but he was a very friendly man, and he's got a bunch of stories that people seem to be really enjoying. So yeah,
cool. All right. Well, I think with that being said, we should probably close this YouTube episode and move on to the Patreon content.
I'm down.
No, you're very well. Yes, you are in some ways, but also, yes, this is very hard for me.
Sorry, can't help you.
Yeah. High expectations. I can see that. All right. So for anyone who was confused about any of these because you haven't been watching, you've been listening, Andy is very tall.
You can't see that. I'm sitting down. I'm actually lower than you on the...
Exactly. I really appreciate the illusion here. But I think between the two of us, you're the greater man. So
it's not about that.
No, I mean, like, yeah, you look at you. Like, you published like so many books already, and I'm still here.
I'm a larger man. I'll take larger man.
Taller man. Yeah, I will. I will have to. Put some more effort into all those friggin' like thousands of things I'm doing for the genre to actually catch up.
You're probably never gonna be as tall as me, Max.
No. Okay, last thing. Do you know John dies at the end, the book?
I haven't read it, but I know of it.
The author of it has like a very, very dry humor, very fun Instagram channel. And in one, he did like a very, very dry review of Reacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he just it was like this non-starter where he explained like in many books, you aspire to be the hero because like the hero is like very humane and like you can also achieve the thing, and that's like one thing, but not Reacher. Reacher is just very tall.
Yeah, his largeness is his asset.
Yeah, and you look at him and you go, I will never be this tall, and then like the clip just ends. Like that's like the entire takeaway of it. Yeah.
Well, here you go. Fun fact for you. I've read every single Jack Reacher book.
Like a lot of people have reached Jack Reacher.
It's it's the only like kind of that sort of like book, that sort of like male airport fiction that I read, but I really enjoy it. I really like Jack Reacher.
We need to talk about this in a second because I'm still like cooking on this like on the back of my head of this idea. But first of all, we should end the podcast, and then we should move on. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Please do like, subscribe, click down below, comment. You know the drill. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Okay. And if you're on Patreon, the show goes on.